Good afternoon and welcome to our session on data and AI. My name is Keith Borne and I am a Sales Solutions Director within the UK Globant Salesforce studio, responsible for retail, CG and TTH. I'm joined today by JJ, our Head of Data and AI, and our VP of Technology, Juan David. So guys, we've seen a lot about data and AI. We know Einstein was launched I think in September 2016 at Dreamforce, so it's been around an awful long time, but for so many customers, they're still not on that journey and they are keen and eager to learn about it. So from a Globant perspective, data and AI, what does it stand for? What does it mean? Where are we?
Okay, so Keith, basically what we are trying is to introduce to the concept of how data is the basic foundation to a very good use of AI. If you don't have a good grasp of your data, if data is not a strategic asset within your company and you don't treat it as such, every effort that you will have in AI is fruitless. You will provide responses that will not add value. You will waste your effort, your time for your users, and you will not provide the responses that you expect for your clients. So what we're trying to do here is to present that concept, that data is the basic foundation. Where we're trying to do this. And in Globant, we have a specific practice for data and AI. So our purpose is to enhance the capabilities of Salesforce with the products that comes out of the box, with these functionalities, these processes, with the services that we provide specifically for data and AI.
Brilliant. So the journey starts with good quality data. For many companies, I imagine that is very difficult. They've been in business X amount of years, 10, 20, 30 years, and perhaps they haven't paid attention to their data, the quality of the data. How do they start then on this journey if data is the starting point? What are best practices, JJ?
Well, I would say the first thing is to be able to know what data you actually have. Like most companies believe they have a lot of data and they might have that as a side effect of operating systems. They don't really know what they have, when it was accessed, who modified it, whether the formats are all compatible, whether it's actually valuable data or it's just kind of a subproduct or log of something that happened, whether it belongs to the same user, whether you have duplicated users, like everything that happens on any given non-data platform, I would say, because any given accumulation of data that wasn't principled, that trickles down into every kind of use that you want to do. Now, given that we're working within the Salesforce ecosystem, there's a lot of those flows that are solved because you're working within that CRM kind of workflows, you're working within the modules. So part of that way is there. But now the point is, well, what does it mean to leverage data? And the way to understand that is that, well, you're optimizing for decisions, you're optimizing for operations, you're optimizing for monetization. What that means will vary greatly within different businesses, different lines. But in the end, we're talking about decision-making pain points and how you overcome them or how you avoid having to have them at all. That's the basic principle. So in the sense of the data platform, the first thing is good foundations, which means a good strategy, which means good governance, which means good practices in the sense of how you input, process, and output the data. And then about your people, about do they actually leverage that? Do they have to? And kind of they include that because it's part of the process? Or are they getting value out of that? If you remove the data, would they ask for it again? If the response is a yes, then it's permeating. That's a good result. That's what you want to achieve. And it means that your strategy is paying off.
Okay, so that sounds like a very, very large scale, scary type of project that you need to undertake prior to entering into this world. Is it that, or is it more simple? Does it matter what type of systems you have? Should you look at your technology stack and try and simplify that before you go down this route? Is there a simple way?
I would say that even though you could go the kind of big bang approach and spend a lot of months and doing a lot of things before you start working on it, what we've seen in the past when let's say everybody was building a data lake because you had to, and then they were trying to find a use for it. That's not the good way to go. What you want to do is start very practical, start with little parts that will add in value, but that people will see or the user will see that it's already working. And then you build that from there. Of course, you need some kind of grander decisions around the kind of architecture, around some of the use cases, around some of the data flows. Yes, but the minimal ones, so that you build, let's say, the whole platform experience layer by layer. And so when you're adding a new component, everything else is already adopted, and that can get through.
Yeah, I will add to what JJ said, that you have to choose the battles that you want to fight. So that means that sometimes maybe your main problem is that your clients are abandoning your brand, or you don't have enough upsell or cross-sell, or your position within your wallet share with your customers is weak. And then you are thinking that data could help you there if you add this layer of AI on top to support this process, right? If you choose specific use cases, you can narrow the data set that you have to work with. It will help you to also test it easier in the process than something that goes with the big bang. The problem with the big bang is that you have to take everything into consideration. Sometimes you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, the culture of the company is not ready for that. So you have to pick those battles. What we do in Globant is that, for example, in the case of Salesforce, some of the out-of-the-box products of Salesforce can help you with that because they have specific use cases in sales or in marketing. So you can use them properly without much effort in the actual configuration of the use case. Then you can focus on, okay, I'm going to clean up this data set and work on that. So it's probably easier than just going for the whole thing.
If you're losing clients, building a huge data set about what's the next product that you want to pitch them might not be the perfect thing. You want to understand what kind of usage they're doing of your product, how you're reaching them out, why are they leaving, what do they have in common, and that's going to be a separate data set. And so maybe you spend months building a huge recommendation engine for the next product and trying to upsell something, and that wasn't even the main problem. So that's what separates the big bang versus, hey, this is a decision that's actually important to me now and relevant. Let's work from that backwards.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's the business value needs to be determined upfront, which then qualifies what data you need and what data set you work with, working with IT and the business together to ultimately give you the ability and the framework and the foundation to then look at AI, which you may already have because companies like Salesforce have had the technology embedded and built into the licenses that you have since 2016, but you maybe haven't used it. Are there any ways that a customer can jump ahead from being behind the curve, which many of the customers are, and they can fast track, and in the meantime they can be putting in place the correct processes, the correct strategies to allow them to go along the AI curve, receive the efficiency gains, the benefits that come with that, and the productivity gains as well?
Well, yes, but there are qualifiers in the middle. So what I would say is people have, or customer have the expectation of AI being magical. And that's fine as an experience, but it's not a magical technology. It's powerful, yes, and I love it, but it's not going to be magical just, hey, I'm just adding AI on top, and now everything is working. So the way to actually do that, kind of jumping ahead, has to do with incorporating the platforms and products that already have this embedded into it, and that can kind of get you halfway there, and so you can start focusing on the business. And it could be about, as Juan was talking about, understanding what are the conditions when you might lose a client. It might be about understanding what is fraudulent and understanding how that gets routed through, understanding maybe what parts of the process you think you have in your business But when you look at what actually happened, it's all over the place. And anything else that lets you, I don't know, understanding whether the visual representation you're having is spot perfect with what you want to have in a manner that scales. So those are all kind of little snippets that already had AI embedded in it. There are products that you can start using or connecting to the platform, and you get a good jump ahead with that. Now, that gets you only so far, because then you need to have your own people understanding what they're trying to solve for, understanding what kind of data they have, understanding, oh, well, now I can use this part of Einstein to do such and such. And that takes a little bit of maturity. It's not easy to jump ahead in that, having the right skill set in people and kind of in the organization. That's why when we started talking, we're talking about the strategy and talking about kind of the bigger view on the topic. But then at the tactical level, adopting the ready-made products.
Yeah. There is another case. We've been talking about customers. We've been talking about companies in relationship with the customers. But some companies, for them, their internal projects are an important part of their strategy, the way that they are presenting products or innovating or changing. And sometimes they have problems for example, testing their solutions correctly, for example. With AI, we see very direct cases where you can use generative AI to help you to build the test cases and to support your users into, okay, this is what we want to test, and do it faster, so that way your development cycle of your product, your solution, or your projects is reduced. It's not just helping with the coding, because not everyone in your project is coding. Sometimes you have business owners, people that are in the business, that they need help into getting into more tasks at the same time, or going through very repetitive tasks in a shorter amount of time. AI help you with that, right? And we can help with these processes. And that actually, if you reduce your time to market just because you're doing that, that also helps you to put you ahead on the curve. So that type of things, that you're always thinking about the sexy part of the consumer and the interaction with the client, all that. But there is something that usually your company is operating behind the curtains that requires support. And if you're thinking in AI data on that part of your business, it's also helping you.
Brilliant. So AI doesn't just deliver external benefits, gains, it also can be highly effective within the internal organizations. What I'm hearing, and dealing with the external, what I'm hearing is, well, as a consultancy, it should drive the cost of consultancy down. Internally, it's clearly making companies more effective. Is AI and good data strategy going to reduce costs, drive efficiencies, or is it going to fast track customers, fast track companies to be more effective? Which is it, cost reduction or efficiency and drivers?
That's a great question, and I would say a little bit of everything. But if you, let's say, were thinking about a given project in isolation of everything else, and you're saying, oh, well, now I can be more effective, then the time it takes to deliver on the project or the resources might be down. And that's true. But then you have to think that you have a lot of competitors that will be more efficient as well. And so what you see outside of the market is that companies are looking into, how can I maximize the impact of whatever budget I have? And so if I only, let's say, I was going to do the next best action, and I finished that, and now I was faster than that, and I'm out of the market, and my competitor does something like that and something more, then I'm at a disadvantage. So it's true that the efficiencies go up, but that kind of goes into increased quality of what you're building, increased scope of what you're trying to do, increased services to your clients, either internal or external. So it is true that the cost might be going down, but the ambitions go much higher.
Okay, so we are not all going to be out of jobs due to AI, but we are going to be working better, working faster, and being more productive.
So when we're talking about that journey that you have with AI, specific AI tools, and you put it in the context of Salesforce applications, right? We have today over 50 plus applications of Salesforce that are for sales, marketing, customer service, or for the platform, right? That some of them are ready to use as is. So you have your opportunities pipeline, you have your leads, and it helps you to score them, or help you to what is the next action, or to forecast better your opportunities, stuff like that. Yeah. So those are use cases that you can use right away, and they're important because from one side, it gives you a taste of what AI can do in your organization. Two, it doesn't require too much effort in your company. Probably you need to clean up better your, the way that your pipeline is built so that the solution provides better suggestions, right? Yeah. Or you need to deduplicate your leads so that way they can score them properly. Stuff like that. But from there, you start to move to more complex models. And then is when we are entering into JJ's territory, because you can use Einstein trust layer in Salesforce to bring your own model, your own learning model. But then you need to try to identify more complex use cases, right? And then you move into specific products that probably will have a usage that goes beyond just text and just reading data. You need to use unstructured data, graphics, photos, video, stuff like that. So you're starting to move into that territory. So basically what Salesforce provides us is, from one side, the out-of-the-box functionalities, and then the correct environment within your company for testing those more complex cases. I would love to hear from JJ, what can you do that if you have these models? Because sometimes it's foreign for some clients where you're just managing like a typical CRM. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it makes sense because by default, you wouldn't want to be working with that if you can get a lot of value before it. Like the best use case for AI is when you don't even realize it's being used. Like when you get your summary, so the conversation history with the client and what is the outcome or the main concern, when you get the suggestion about the next best action, when you get anything of that, and it's just a piece of information to you, it's not like, oh, I use AI for this, then it's working. And when you don't see it, then it's when it's working the best. But it can only get you so far because you need to have a very well-defined or framed process or problem, the data, the model training, everything else. When you move to the next stage is when you want to interact freely with the model. And that is the, let's say, ChatGPT experience, when you start getting into prompts and you start getting into the templates and the structures, and you need to train people to actually leverage that effectively, but it gives you a degree of freedom that you didn't have before. Yeah. Now, you don't want to start there because you lose a lot of time just interacting and playing with the thing, but it gets you to the next level, which is like, I have this open problem, give me ideas, give me solutions, critique my writing, translate this into a more technical kind of language or more simplified, or I need to understand what is the relevant part of this data set given that this is the problem, or I'm interested in such and such. I have this whole paper and I need to understand the main trends. That's fine. You can work with LLMs, whether within the platform or through the trust layer, something external. But then the point gets to, what happens if you, for instance, you couldn't use the trust layer because the existence of the data gives away too much. And so you don't trust, not even that, like anonymized data, but you have the data somehow and you don't even want to show that. Then you would want to run something completely locally. Or if it's something that, you're a government and you want to run something and you have your own data centers and you want to connect with that, then you have your own LLMs. But beyond that, the reason to have your own is because you want to customize it somehow. Either because the language of your domain is so specific that you need to add a lot of layers of prompt engineering before you can actually manage that. And we see that a lot in kind of the medical domain, the life sciences domain, when there's this bio LLMs or their names coming out every day, so I might not remember most of them. But it's very specific for that use case. And now we see that specifically with life sciences because it's a whole completely different domain. But we might see that in many other types of retail or finance or automotive or, I don't know, space or whatever. And what you can do with that is that you can get into this whole new world of, I'm going to say agents. I don't want to say agents because it's agentic workflows, actually, where you're not just using an LLM to say, I don't know, I want a summary of this. You are using a set of calls to the LLM to say, give me a summary, now evaluate that, add suggestions, add references, and then tell me what's the actionable or the call to action from that summary. If you want to do that in one call to an LLM, that's when you are trying it to be magic and not powerful. When you break it out into the specific tasks and you let it focus, then you might get the magical experience, but you actually work very hard to get there. For that is when you are starting to access kind of these external LLMs, because it's not using the LLM itself, but it's that whole cycle inside that. Now, at the moment, you might say, well, I need to access something external because I want to work with sounds and images and videos or generate images or whatever. But that's all temporary because all the LLMs are gaining some sort of that capability. Now you have GPT-4o or Gemini or whatever, and they're working with images as well. They're working with video. Give it some time, and that will work natively anywhere. And given the advances that we're having in model compressions, eventually they will work on your laptop computer, they will work on your phone, and so that capability will be available and will be part of the platform. You will need to call something external for that. But if you want just the cutting edge that just was released and nobody else yet has, that's when you connect to that.
Data at the core of everything we've heard today, and from what you're saying, I can see why it starts with good data, absolutely essential. Using Salesforce range of AI products, your data is safe. Am I presuming it's safe with all versions of AI, or is that something built into the Salesforce environment that gives you that peace of mind?
Well, the understanding is that when you're using trust and you bring in an external model, Salesforce built this partnership with all these companies. So you will have a model of zero retention. So that means that your data is not exposed to internet, right? And is actually what is feeding the model within that trust layer that Salesforce built, right? So but it requires governance. It's not just like, I just bring the model and that's it. It requires a train of your people how to understand how to use the data properly. So in regulated industries, healthcare, financial, insurance, the customers, of course, they are concerned about how AI is going to use the data, how AI is going to interact with your clients, and it probably would put you in a compliance situation, stuff like that. So that's why governance and culture is important. The training, understand what are your roles, understanding what your ethical guidelines will be. But in general technical terms, the data, in principle, wouldn't abandon this space within Salesforce, and that is good news for the clients because they can trust in the process.
So let's look at what are the current trends within AI that are affecting the Salesforce ecosystem, and how is Globant at the forefront of assisting customers and technologists to expose these?
Well, there are two sides to that, I would say. One is the user experience, which is how can you let them use AI without going through the effort of using AI. And that's when the skills model within Salesforce works very well, because you can develop new skills and those get used within the workflows. And it's not like people having to fight against ChatGPT to get the kind of results they want. But that's kind of an ongoing development. That's something that can be enriched, and every company can have kind of a more specific or more customized approach to it. But the other side is AI is targeting and being used a lot to improve the whole kind of software development lifecycle, which means how you use AI to understand better the problem, the process of the company, and try to see if that is what you want to move into Salesforce, or actually clean it up a little bit and have the proper process within there to be faster at understanding the documentation and the code and helping the developers be faster while developing the different processes, testing that, and how you improve the, let's say, speed to run a regression test or the visual testing, or to create the test cases, like everything that lets you have a higher level of quality in the process while developing that, to finally anything that you can add to like this agentic kind of behavior, like any complex workflow that could be helping you process anything in the middle. That's a little bit more far out. That's something that we're only starting to see and not yet applied heavily to the whole process. But all the others are actually things that we're already doing.
Okay. And I've seen the hours you work, JJ and Juan David, so I'm going to ask how we stay ahead of the curve as Globant, because we are both, providers of services, but we are also advisors to the industry. How do we stay ahead of a company and on top of things for a company like Salesforce?
Well, for Globant, AI is front and center of everything that we do right now. So from the big investments in innovation centers in Latin America that started last year, our partnership with Salesforce that we're heavily investing in, we are part of the advisory board for data and AI. We are data cloud experts. We recently acquired the badge. So is keep doing what we're doing well. That is investing, training our people, keeping them motivated, trying to find exciting projects, clients that are also aligned with our culture, that they are willing to take the risk to try new things, test small, win big, stuff like that. If we continue doing that, we will be very successful, and it will get us ahead of the curve in terms of the Salesforce practices that are in the market.
Okay, so advisory boards, we're on many. Great to hear we're part of the Data and AI Advisory Board. I could bring in one of the big four, I suppose any of the big four, and they would maybe make some claims similar to that. But what really sets Globant apart from our competitors in this space?
Well, earlier you were mentioning that we are, how you mentioned, big enough to...
big enough to scale, small
big enough to scale, small to carry. Probably that's the right mix. So Salesforce projects require people that have the expertise, the attitude, but also you need to scale quickly, because usually those projects are very short. So you start with a small team and then you start to get results and then you need to big. We can do that, and we've been doing it. So probably from my end, it will be that we never leave a customer behind. It's something that is in the culture of Globant from the beginning. We are always taking care of the client from the beginning to the continuous work that we do with them.
Brilliant. And in my short time with Globant, and I'm here just under 6 months, I've seen many customer write-ups internally and broadcast externally. Is there anywhere that customers can go or prospects can go to see the bank of work we've done and to see the points of view that we have in relation to AI and in relation to those proof points that we live and die by? JJ?
I would say our social channels and webpage are our best way of keeping updated with what we're doing. Normally our LinkedIn channels, Twitter channels, or X channels, Facebook, etc. Those are going to be the best ones. And just getting in touch with us, actually.
Okay. And when they do get in touch with us, and I'm at the front line, I work with customers all the time, they will say, okay, I'm interested. I trust that you, Globant, are within this space knowledgeable at what you do. You're potentially a successful partner that we can work with. What initiatives do we have? What accelerators do we have around AI and data?
Well, we have a whole, let's say, leg of the organization called Globant UK, where we have our products, platforms, and accelerators, where we have things like Magnify, which is AI applied to testing, either visual or test case generation and kind of building coverage of your code base. We have Augur, which is for code understanding and documentation for really understanding when you have an issue, how in the code that works in a very human and natural way, so you speed up your capacity to understand these huge code bases. We have GenXus for building low-code, no-code applications very quickly and letting that scale and test ideas before you can build at scale or scale those ideas. We have Navigate, where you can use process mining and understand either kind of physical process and the administrative process within companies, but also all the ticketing systems, all the request systems, and how you route them, what are the typical problems. You have GenXus Enterprise AI as a single point of entry for any generative AI model, so that you can have visibility and accelerators and the capacity to build your own customizations very quickly.
Yeah, so we have, for example, an accelerator with smart collections. Yeah. So where we, companies that have a problem with collecting from their clients, they can use that, combining it with Salesforce to identify what is the best route to interact with that client and collect your money, for example. Or which of your clients are more, I don't know, what would be the word?
More likely to pay on time
or not, so that type of thing. So understanding that, and it will connect to the way with your agents, and that will interact directly to your customer, for example. That is something that is a very direct case with Salesforce. In the case of Navigate, for example, we've been using it for understanding how your processes flow within your company from the different data sources that you might have. And in the case of Salesforce, it's useful to understand when you have bottlenecks, when you have, for Salesforce admins, is interesting because they help them to understand how their processes in Salesforce are, for example, outdated, or they are having some requirements in their process that is reflecting an outdated process or business unit or something like that now is not relevant. So you're wasting time, you have bottlenecks, you can fix them, and that is information that you can see there. You can use it for a case org rationalization. So you have a very good org and you want to do benchmark with the other orgs that are not that good. You can compare them using Navigate to understand how different they are and use it as an input for your design process. So there are multiple cases when you can combine Salesforce with these tools that we have in Globant.
Perfect. And that area of process efficiency, I've seen it work. Navigate is one you need to check out. AI from a Globant perspective, you mentioned Globant X and you mentioned a whole heap of offerings there, various tools. Are they all tools that a customer purchases, or are they used by our teams in the background? How much of that is I suppose, shopfront, and how much is actual productivity tools that we ourselves use within our services business?
Well, it's both. Like a customer might want to leverage, let's say, Magnify for the test suite, and they can just use it, and it's within the main marketplaces of the hyperscalers, for instance, so they can integrate into whatever workflow they want to use. But we use them within our projects so that we are faster and better and provide more quality.
Okay. So thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been hugely informative, this session. What I understand is the journey starts with data. The journey starts really in understanding what you're looking to achieve, thereby deciding what data you require, then looking at what tools you have within AI and other tools that may complement that and encourage you on the journey towards AI. And let's be fair, it's been around a while, it's going to be around, and it's going to drive and shape businesses as we move forward. What are the key takeaways for you, and how should a customer who's watched this and has some questions or has some further interest engage with Globant?
Right. So what I would say is the key factors and what we wanted to convey was that the expectation is that a lot of these capabilities of AI are going to be embedded within Salesforce, and the ones that are still being developed in future will be incorporated into that. And so the availability of them will be at the client's customer's disposals. But the maturity required to actually take the most out of them takes time, both at the skills people have, but also the organization level. So they shouldn't wait until the platform has everything kind of served there before they start to use it. Otherwise, their competitors will, and they will be kind of left behind. And so all those kind of skip aheads they did by incorporating the projects, then they will have another one to make to catch up to the customers.
Okay.
And Juan David.
Yeah, on my case, we'll be adding on what JJ mentioned. The companies shouldn't be discouraged by if the functionalities that you have today in Salesforce are in some cases just like barely minimum of what they already have. Because that is a good thing. Because you're actually trying something very small, you're testing it correctly, the risk is very low, but you're getting your people, your culture, your company into this process. And from there you start to build more complex cases, more integrated in your processes in your company, in the culture, in the structure of how you interact with partners, with customers. So you need to try, you need to start. You need to start to identify some cases and then move forward. If you don't, your competitors will do it.
So what I'm hearing is tomorrow is too late. Let's get on it today. Yep. Contact Globant for a data assessment. Contact Globant for an AI readiness assessment. Any of these programs, we will engage with you in a pre-sales capacity and move forward from there.